Imagine an intelligent powder dispenser that actually learns about the powder it's dispensing and has a mobile app to keep track of your load data. Gavin Gear here from ultimatereloader.com. That's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. It's the new Intelli-dropper from Frankford Arsenal. I'm going to unbox this thing. I'm going to get it set up. I'm going to show you how the app works. I'm going to show you how the powder measure works. And we're going to try it with a couple different powders. Let's get straight into it. I have not opened this box. As you can see, it's factory sealed. And we're going to see what's in here. Okay. As you would expect, the instructions. No surprise there. And here it is. Got the hopper, looks like a power supply, a powder brush, cover, kind of a dust cover, the platen. Got the pan. Got a calibration weight. Okay. Another calibration weight. And power adapter for, looks like, European countries. All right. So, looks like our power button actually came off in transit. Put that back on. Okay, so that's what we've got. And I'm going to take a stab at putting this together here. Okay, put the platen in place. Put the pan in place. Put the hopper in place. Okay, it looks like a precision fit on that. All right. Looks like there's a certificate with the calibration weights. Okay. Let's go there. Got our brush. I see the holder for that up here. Okay. And the discharge chute for emptying the powder measure. Looks pretty familiar to me. All right, we'll get this cover out also. Very cool. All right. So this is this is the unit here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the instructions. We'll power the unit up and we'll start getting with the powder dispensing. Okay, so I read the instruction book, and one thing I found with these precision scales and powder dispensers is if you want accurate results, you need to let them warm up. I've been warming this machine up for about 45 minutes, and that's what I want to do before I calibrate it. Otherwise, you'll get drift while you're dispensing powder, and obviously that's not what you want. So let me run through the calibration procedure here. I'm going to take off the cover, take off the pan. We will zero the unit out, wait for stable, then zero out. Okay, now we're going to hit the cal button, and it's going to ask us to put the 50-gram weight on, and I'm going to center that. And then when that gets stable, we're going to hit the calibration button again. Now it should ask us for 100 grams. Okay, so we're going to put these side by side in the center without touching the discharge chute. Okay, so that's stable now. Hit calibration again. And there we go, pass. So that's all it takes to calibrate the unit. Okay, so we can take the weights off. We can go ahead and zero the unit out again. Now, a couple other notes about setting up the unit. These are precision scales and they need to be leveled. There's an integrated bubble level here, and I took the time to very carefully get that centered. The instructions state that if you're not level, not completely level, you can get up to a 0.3 grain offset in the charge weight and inaccuracy, and obviously that's not what you want. Okay, so the machine is now set up. Now we can add some powder. Now what I want to do is remove the cap and then make sure that our discharge chute here is in the closed position. It's actually a drain. The discharge chute is technically the nozzle. And you can see you spin this And when you spin it, there's a little window. I'll show you that in a little bit. So that is closed. Believe me, I've done this on other powder dispensers before. It makes a big mess if you don't close the, the drain. So I've got the drain closed. What I'm going to do in this video is show you a couple new powders for me from Vidivori. If you're in Europe, by the way, drop a comment if you're viewing from Europe. You're probably familiar with these Vidivori powders. Not as many Americans are familiar with these powders, so I'm going to work with these a lot over the course of the year. So what I've got here is N140. This is going to be kind of similar to like a Varget speed of powder. It's going to work well for 308. It's going to work well for things like 223 as well. So I'm going to take some of this powder and fill up the unit. That's probably plenty there. And what I want to do now is go through the powder calibration routine. And what this is going to do is this is a patent pending algorithm that Frankford Arsenal has developed so that they can run the motor on the discharge chute and calculate how the powder is going to dispense, how many for different speeds and for different number of rotations, trickling, etc. They can figure out exactly how the powder is going to dispense, and then they can optimize the speed and accuracy, preventing overshoots, that kind of thing. Okay, so again, I put the pan on there. I'm going to zero that, and then I'm going to hit the powder cal button, and this is going to go through a whole routine. Okay, so the beeping indicates that it's done with the powder calibration routine. So I'm going to dump that powder back into the hopper, and we can go about dispensing some charges. Okay, and we're stabilizing at 0. Now, Frankford Arsenal recommends that you use the cover while you're dispensing powder, because remember, we're dealing with a plus or minus 0.1 grain accurate scale. 1 grain is 1/7,000th of a pound. That means 1/10 of a grain is 1/70,000th of a pound. That is a very small weight figure. And like I said, you need to level the dispenser. You need to calibrate the dispenser. I just ran the powder calibration routine that's going to optimize our speed. But we also need to be very careful about temperature fluctuations in the room that we're in, and make sure that air is not hitting, like from a fan or from an HVAC system, the actual platen and the pan. Because if it does, it's going to influence the reading of the scale, and that's going to throw everything off. So the cover helps with that, and letting the unit warm up helps with that. I usually calibrate a scale like this every time I go to do a loading session, and I give it at least a half an hour to warm up. Longer is not a bad idea, actually. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and zero this out. Let's do a very basic load dispensing. So if we want to do 25.5 grains, we're going to go ahead and hit the play button there. Okay, so it basically went to 25, and now it's trickling it up to 25.5. There we go. Now as a test, I'm going to take this off and put it back on to see if it's going to come back to the same spot, 25.5, and stable. That's really good, okay? Let's run that again. So notice the count increments as we go through. Now, I might not have let that sit long enough to stabilize before I hit the go button. Wow, that's really fast. Okay, let's try that another time, and I'm going to be a little bit more careful with letting that stabilize. Okay, 0, stable. You notice the air currents there, I think, are kind of influencing what's going on here. So I'm going to put this over 0.1. I'm going to go ahead and hit 0 here. Stable. Good. It's basically dumped high speed to 25.1 that time. 25.5. Stable. Extremely sensitive scale. Okay. 25.5 comes back to the same spot. Let's do that one more time. Okay. I had a granule of powder. I think that might explain our 0.1 difference there. 1 point. Yep. So we go ahead and put my cover on. Okay. 0. 0 and stable. You have to be very careful about granules of powder when you're getting down to this level of precision. Okay, so we've got stable. You have to be really patient and take your time with this kind of thing. Otherwise, you're not going to get the results that you want. That's what I found. Okay, there we are at 25.5 again. Let's take this off, put it back on. I noticed a little granule of powder drop there, but it still comes back to 25.5. Must have been a very slight addition of that one granule of powder. Okay, so that is our N140. So that performs well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to empty the unit, and then we're going to go with some N340, which would be a powder suitable for something like 9mm or 45 ACP, things like that. Okay, so I emptied the N140. Now let's fill the hopper with some N340. This is going to be the pistol powder. So I'm making sure that my drain is closed. That means the window is facing up. Okay, again, I've learned many a time that mistake. Okay, so we're going to fill it about half full. And we're going to set up the scale and use it, this time with the mobile app. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that we have no granules of powder out here. Put the pan back. Okay, so we're going to fire up the Frankford Arsenal Intellidropper app. This is available on Google Play or on the Apple App Store. And you can see it scans for the device. It automatically connects to it, which is really cool. And we can do things like 0 it. Okay, let's run through the powder calibration for the N340. So we can hit that button there, and it's going to go through the sequence. Okay, there we go. So it's done with the powder calibration routine. So that means we can empty our pan again here. Now I want to show you some of the other features in the app. So we can go to our home menu, and this enables us to input loads, which I did one of, to look up loads in our database, and then to mark favorites. So if I go to my database, I have the load, which is N340, 45 ACP, Hornady 230 grain XTP, and if we select that and then hit send to scale, you'll notice that it automatically says 6.4 for our target because that's the charge weight here, and it's going to go ahead and start charging at 6.4 grains. Okay, so we've got stable. Let's take this guard off. We'll do the test where we remove the pan and we put the pan back. Okay, we're within 1/10 of a grain there. Oh, 6.4, there we go. We just have to give it a little bit of time to stabilize. Okay, so let's dump that. Go ahead and dispense a new load. Make sure I have no powder granules here. It looks pretty clean. Okay, we're going to go ahead and re-zero here. Okay, and then if we hit load, wow, it really quickly gets the bulk of the powder out there. Okay, 6.4. Let's see what we get when we take the pan off and put the pan back on here very carefully. Being really careful not to bump the discharge chute. It says 6.2. 6.2. So if we go ahead and hit load, let's see what that does. Okay. Okay, so we're back to 6.4 and stable. Back to 6.4 and stable. Okay, let's try that another time. This time I'm not going to use the guard. Zero and load. Okay, repeat our test. .4 and stable. Okay. Go ahead and hit the load button here. We can control it either from the unit or from the mobile app. So it looks like it's consistently going to about 0.4 or 0.5 grains under and then trickling up. 6.4 and stable. Super careful. Let it stabilize without the pan on there and then put it back. 6.4 and stable. Okay. 0 and stable. Let's go ahead and hit load. Okay, 6.4 and stable. .4 and stable. One more time. 0 and stable. Load. Okay, again, 6.4 and stable. One more time with our remove the pan, stable, and then replace the pan and stable. There we go, back to 6.4. So what I've noticed here is that these powder dispensers and precision scales are incredibly sensitive to the repeatability of the procedure that you're following. And what I saw here was, as I developed my very consistent routine with checking the charge weight, it appeared to stabilize on 1/10 of a grain, 6.4 being the charge weight here. So that is two different tests, one with a rifle powder similar to Varget and one with a pistol powder that's going to be similar to powders like W231 that you're going to be able to use with like 9mm with 45 ACP, loads like that. So there you go, a quick overview of the Frankford Arsenal Intellidropper. I've had a chance to use it for a little while now, and some of my initial impressions are as follows. On the pro side, this is a great value. At about $200 street price, it's on par within about $10 of where the RCBS Chargemaster Lite sits, and it actually has more features and functionality. I like the way that the machine is put together. overall, the screen, the touch screen, is responsive, it's big, it's easy to see. I love the fact that the calibration is really easy. It steps you through the process. The leveling feet and integrated level are a great set of features that are really important to getting accurate readings. But I think probably the biggest two things that I think are on the pro side here are the speed, and that probably has to do with the powder calibration functionality and optimized dispensing. It really quickly throws down the powder and then slows way down to trickle it up to the optimal charge weight. And I did not have a single overcharge, which is a problem that I've had with other electronic powder dispensers. The other thing, of course, is the mobile app functionality. I like the fact that you can store your loads in the app. I like that you can see what's going on with the scale. You can control the scale, and that's just a great additional bonus. Bluetooth low energy built in. On the con side, as you saw when I unboxed the unit, the power button had come off in transit. I did notice there was some kind of denting on the box. You can see right here, kind of this denting, so it might have had a harsh ride. I also noticed that the Bluetooth kind of would occasionally disconnect and reconnect automatically. You might have noticed that in the video when I was dispensing some loads. I don't know if that has to do with the fact that I'm sitting here in a metal box surrounded by shipping containers or what. Sometimes I do get interesting kind of wireless issues going on there. It is also very sensitive to the procedure, and I've noticed this again with some of my other electronic powder dispensers, where it seems like it definitely needs the full warm-up time, and I don't know if this is really a con. And then you have to very consistently follow a regimen when you are dispensing the powder. It did seem to have a slight fluctuation with the use of the cover, and since I am very careful about air currents here in the shop, I noticed it worked a little bit better without it, so that's the way that I'm gonna roll forward using this device. Overall, really love it, and again, it's just a really solid value. So if you want more details on this, more specifications and more information, click on that first link in the video description, and you can dig into that. I'll have links to product pages and so on and so forth. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you don't want to miss any of the action here on GavinTube, metalworking, reloading, shooting, I'm going to be working more with these Vitivuori powders. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications. Until next time, happy shooting and happy reloading.